going to talk about Q Conflict, the 6-issue Star Trek series from IDW.
So the cover date is January 2019, 6-issue series. What'd you think about it?
It was a pretty good story.
This one, I went over this. Initially, the first thing that came to mind was the novel crossovers from the 1990s. Remember how popular they were? It was during the era that we had a hard time keeping up with the Star Trek novels because they were producing them so fast and furiously.
Yeah, and I read all of those because I always loved the crossover novels. And I always loved all the Q novels.
Mm-hmm. So it harkens back to that era when they would take 4 teams, and it always happened to be the TOS era, Enterprise, Janeway's Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise D. Sometimes they would throw in Peter David's New Frontier, Captain Calhoun crew as well. But so this had that feel of the 1990s crossover novels. Did you get that impression as well?
Yeah, seeing everyone together and all these people who had never met before and they have to work together, yes.
So it was written by Scott and David Tipton, those two brothers. We always enjoy their comic series. They understand the whole Star Trek universe. You would not see me complain whatsoever. Actually, it would be the exact opposite. I wouldn't complain. I would be elated if they were hired on to be Star Trek series writers because they understand the Star Trek universe. Pencils by David Messina, inks by Elisabetta D'Amico. All right, so give us a synopsis, baby doll.
Well, it starts out, there are all these supernovas happening in the galaxy and no one knows why, and then it turns out that it's because of Q and some other immortal beings that are sort of having a fight over who's the most superior, and Q says that it's sort of like, it just happens every 1,000 years that some of these other races rise up and decide that they can compete with the Q. And so, they decide to have a contest using human, of course, and I thought it was interesting they said using humans, but of course they've got Worf and Spock, other non-humans in this. But it's basically they're trying to use what they call humanity to decide. They're having a contest, and the 4 leaders of each team are Q, of course, and when I say Q, John Delancey's Q, since all the Q have the same name. Him and Elborn, the Organian, the Metron that was in Arena, and Trelane from Squire of Gothos. Those are the 4 team leaders. They are the 4 supreme godlike beings in this who had been fighting.
So we are looking at the supreme beings are now making draft choices, and the final draft choices are not revealed into issue 2. And we are at the end. Issue 2 starts out with the supreme beings going with their draft choice rounds. So, fighting for Trelane is Captain Kirk and his team. Fighting for Q is Captain Picard and his team. Fighting for the Organians is Captain Sisko and his team. And representing the Metrons is Captain Janeway and her team. So let's discuss round 1 choices. Round 1 choices, each of the were the captains that were just mentioned. Now, round 2. Teaming with Captain Kirk is
Dr. McCoy.
All right. Joining Captain Picard is
Mr. Spock. And joining Sisko is Chakotay. And then joining Janeway is Riker.
Okay. So that is the
that's
next
the
round.
First officers.
Yes.
Well, sort of.
Okay.
McCoy's not the first officer.
Exactly. So
yeah.
that's a curious choice. So this is going to be our second round choices. Would you agree with having Dr. McCoy in the top tier like that if you had someone fighting for you?
It does seem strange, yeah.
The only thing I could think of is that Trelane wanted to secure a physician in there. You knew that Spock was going to be taken. I was surprised that Spock wasn't immediately taken. Chakotay, first officer, I don't know if I would. I mean, it's just like kickball in the schoolyard. You want the best kickers, the best runners, the best of the best on your team. At the end of the team, it's whoever's left over, but first, second, and third rounds are going to be your key players. Not so agreeable with Chakotay. And then Will Riker. Absolutely. He's going to be a power player. Okay, baby doll, let's talk about round 3.
Okay, I was just looking at the end of the first one just to see how the captains were chosen. I mean, Q picked Picard, but then Q assigned Sisko to the Organian. So, I mean, it's not like they really got to pick. I mean, the first
Okay,
round.
so the first round of captains was a combination of picks and assignments.
Yes. Okay.
Makes... even that's kind of a strange... Why would that be? Why would Q pick Captain Kirk?
I think Trelane picked Kirk.
Trelane picked Kirk, yes, but I'm sorry, he did. Trelane picked Kirk, but why were the others assigned?
You have to consider these. How well do these people know each other? So Trelane and the Organian and the Metrone, Kirk knew all of them.
At this point, the Metrone wasn't known by Kirk, though.
Oh, that's right. We read on Memory Alpha that this was actually before Kirk knew the Metrone, and maybe even before he knew the Organian, since he met them both in the same season of the original series. So maybe they don't know each other, and Q knows the other 3 captains, but not Kirk.
Okay.
So they all.
So first round is the mixture of assignment and picking. Second round going forward is all picking. So let's talk about third round then. Get back to that. On Kirk's team, we have
Worf.
Okay, top player. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. With Captain Picard?
Dr. Crusher.
Okay. So now his team has secured a medical officer. I could see that. Okay. Captain Sisko?
Data.
But totally. I would have put him on one of my first choices. I'm surprised he's on third round.
I mean, we're saying, but it was the leader. It was the Supreme Being who picked him. Yeah, not the captain. Okay.
Correct. We understand that with the entire going
with all
forward.
Of these picks, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And on Janeway's?
Kira.
I wouldn't have chose her in the top half. Would you have picked Kira in the top half?
Yes. I mean, I think she's good. She
is
someone
tactical
who's smart
and fighting.
Can fight.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I could see that. Round 4 for Captain Kirk's team.
Dax.
Now, she has a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience. That's going to be a good combination. She has science background. Okay.
For Picard's team, 7 of 9.
Totally. I mean, she's part Borg.
Then for Sisko's team, Sulu.
Yes. Talking to the microphone. Sulu, I would have put lower down. I don't feel, especially this early in his career, he's a top choice. But okay. And
for Janeway, Scotty.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be a top tier engineer. So that's a good one. So what do we have so far with balance for the team? So for Kirk's team, we have Worf, who's good at everything, tactical, security. He's a fighter. We have medical personnel. We have Dax, that's just an all-around smart, wise. Captain Picard's team, what are we looking at so far with them?
Spock and Crusher and 7.
Okay. What attributes are they going to bring to his team?
They've got the medical, the scientific knowledge, the logic, the reasoning, Borg, which, we'll see does come in handy. Having Spock and 7 on the same team, seems like a real advantage.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about Captain Sisko's team so far.
Chakotay, Data, and Sulu.
Data's going to be the heavy hitter there. Chakotay and Sulu, man, they just don't work for me for being on the upper half of the draft.
Sulu is a pilot, Well, you think that like they don't really know what they're going to be faced with yet. They don't know what these competitions are going to be at this point.
Yep. Okay. And so far we're Captain Janeway's team.
Riker, Kira, and Scotty.
Well-rounded. You have a lot of just general knowledge of everything with Will Riker. What about Kira? She's a fighter. She's feisty. She's
strategist.
Headstrong.
I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So I could see that fitting in with this team, especially with Scotty too. So he's going to have technical know-how. Round 5. Captain Kirk's team.
Tuvok.
I would expect that he'd be way higher up in the draft. What do you think?
He probably should have been. He should have come before McCoy, yeah. I mean,
I agree wholeheartedly. Next round for Captain Picard.
O'Brien? No, I'm sorry, Odo.
Another one. I would have voted him higher. He's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, very advantageous. And then for Cisco, Bashir.
Okay, finally, we have medical on his team. You're going to need someone in medical on every team you'd like to think. I mean, it's almost like a Dungeons and Dragons situation as well. You want to have a cleric because someone's going to get wounded. You're looking for a balanced team. And for Janeway?
Tom Paris.
Okay, a pilot. That's what he's known for. I would put him on the lower half, so that makes sense. Next round.
Okay, on Kirk's team, O'Brien.
Okay, so we have an engineer on Kirk's team. Makes sense.
Picard, Geordi.
Geordi, I would rate higher. He's going to be a good addition because Geordi is very well-rounded. So for Captain Sisko?
For Sisko, it's Troy. And I have to tell you, this time the drawing is not as good because it's kind of hard to tell that's her, but...
Okay, her placement makes sense. We'll see. Maybe I'm thinking what's her attributes that's going to add to the team.
Her empathic powers.
But I was thinking also, this is the later on era of Next Generation, so she's higher in rank, she's more skilled, she has more tactical knowledge and understanding of operations. Okay.
That's right. This is supposed to be right before the movie Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're wearing what it looks like the Deep Space Nine uniforms. Once they changed them to that gray yoke, that's the uniforms the TNG crew was wearing in this. So yeah, and Deanna Troi did look different in that era.
Yep. And for Janeway?
Chekhov.
Yeah, he's, to me, if we were
playing
kickball.
Before first season, like Chekhov wasn't there. Okay, maybe he was there, but
he
we
was
just
on
didn't
third
see him.
shift.
Okay.
We already know that story.
Yeah, okay.
He was on third shift. He was on the crew. Okay,
because Khan knew him. Okay,
that's right. But if we were playing kickball, Chekhov would be the last man standing.
Okay.
All right, so now we're doing last round, and this literally is the one of the kids who are not athletic, who don't even want to be there. They're just in PE because they have to. All right, last pick for Captain Kirk's team.
Quark.
Absolutely, he belongs there. Go ahead.
Who was really, like, he's not even in Starfleet, and which he mentions here, and somehow, I don't know, so I see it like the writers of the comics decided they needed to have him in here. Actually, he does come in handy later in this story.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Which is a good point. This is, I think this is the exercise. I spent more time on this page, I think, than by far in any page in this series, but in a lot of Star Trek comics, because I really started thinking, okay, what's the method to the madness here? Okay, last man standing for Captain Picard.
Uhura.
Makes sense. Go ahead.
Okay, for Sisko, Ensign Kim.
Makes sense.
For Janeway, B'Elanna Torres.
Totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't know how she wound up last. I think sometimes it does happen, though, on these picks. You just you don't realize that there's someone good that's still left. I mean.
B'Elanna Troy, she is the absolute last one chosen. No possible way do I agree with that.
Well, I think they said Quark was really the last one chosen, so this is not quite in that order, but...
Oh, yes!
Right?
They did say Quark was the last one chosen, but the pictures don't depict that.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell you to begin with. But, okay.
Okay, but she's still last round.
Yeah, last
which
round.
I don't agree with.
Which you're still assuming too. But
yes.
Okay, whatever. Okay, so now we're into the second part of the story where they get to their first task.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the tasks.
So this one, oh yes, the Iconian Gateway. They said they're looking for the gateway engine, which is something that drives the gateway. And Q also said whoever is the first team to find it also gets to keep that engine. But they still have to figure out how to use it. Mm-hmm. So in this story, I know they had Kirk and Worf talking, which I liked. And it's mentioned, Worf says to Kirk, well, in your time period, you're still enemies with the Klingons. And Kirk said, well, since you're in Starfleet, I guess that's a good sign that we'll make peace with the Klingons. And so it's like Kirk was okay with having Worf there on his team.
And see, this is pre-Star Trek 2. Because remember, his prejudices came to the fore after David died.
Yes.
Or Star Trek 3.
In 3.
3,
yes.
I should say. Yes. So at this time, Kirk, I like that characterization, that Kirk wasn't always a bigot towards other species.
Right.
It was, he had the ideals of Starfleet.
This whole series, it's really more of action, but they do have a few character moments like this, just to, to have these Star Trek moments. I mean, it's good that they threw in a few. And the way all the crews worked together, they were all willing to work together, which was good. I mean, because all the crews were so mixed up.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the outcome of this one?
Well, Janeway won this one.
Yes. So round 1 goes to Captain Janeway's team.
Another thing that was interesting, because, in the first issue, like we see Q, and then we see all these, the talking balloons of the other supreme beings, but at first you don't know who they are.
Yes. But
we see that they're talking, and it has it uses different fonts for them. But then when we actually see them, they stop using the different fonts. Mm-hmm. So then it's harder to match up. Well, who was the one that didn't like humans, and who was the one who said humans are okay?
Good point.
Things like that.
Yeah. You wonder why they switched that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think at first they must have been talking to Q, and they were speaking in their language, or their, maybe in thought patterns or something, and Q could understand them. Whereas later on they're speaking Federation Standard, which we call English, to the humans, and that must be why they changed the font. I mean, that's a good explanation. They changed the font when the being started speaking Standard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I could roll with that.
We going to issue 3?
Yes. Issue 3. What's the challenge?
Okay, let's see. Oh, this one, okay, so it started off where they said they would take some time off so that all the teams could talk together, and I think Q said something about team building exercises or something, but I think they really just talked.
Yep.
And then they had the game, and they decided to put Trelane in charge. There would be a game where you capture a flag, and they wanted to team up Picard and Sisko for one team, and then Janeway and Kirk for another team. But when they started trying to do this, then Trelane said, well, I'm bored. I'm going to do something else. So he throws in the Doomsday Machine, the giant cornucopia machine. And so that kicks up the action a lot. And I think they called it the Planet Killer in this, instead of calling it the Doomsday Machine. I would have just called it the Doomsday Machine. And so Picard turns out to be the one who wins this one. But they actually work together. Yeah, they work together, but
I thought that they were more working together with it, but the credit goes to Captain Picard.
Just because because he was the one who issued a fire on it that destroyed it.
So now we are looking at Janeway 1, Picard 1.
Yeah, and I was wondering how they were going to do that, to even like declare winners and who would the writers pick the winners to be and so forth. And they do explain that, like of course nobody really wants to go through with this. They think it's all like we're just the playthings of the gods and we don't have to do this. And the ones that know Q, they're like, why are we going along with Q? And because they know that he's just toying with them. But it's basically to keep the destruction of the universe from happening, because at the beginning there were supernovas. And so they just don't want a lot of people to die. And they feel like this, for now, they have to play along with the game just to keep all of these super beings from destroying the universe with their fight.
Mm-hmm. Issue 4.
Okay, issue 4 started out with Picard and Guinan talking. Yes, I like how they brought in Guinan.
I thought that was an excellent character for this theme.
Yes, and because she knows Q, which she talks about, yes. So the task this time had to do with the wormhole aliens, which, and they also refer to them as the prophets in this story. Basically, they're supposed to get the prophets to poke their heads out. And what I liked about this, too, is the little section where Kirk goes into the wormhole and sees Edith Keeler and sees other beings, people from his past, like Gary Mitchell. Mm-hmm. I mean, and those are all the wormhole aliens, because we know that the wormhole aliens take the form of people that you know. So Kirk saw all of those beings, and he knew it wasn't really them. But it was an interesting scene just to see his reaction to them.
Agreed.
And it ends with the prophets doing something with the 4 ships. And they said that they were going to erase their memories. And I was wondering about that. I was thinking, they wouldn't really have to do that. Oh, and of course, and then they also brought in the other Q, the blonde Q, played by Corbin Burnson.
Amanda.
And then Amanda.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That she came in later. Yes.
The other blonde Q.
That's
Amanda.
right. Yes.
Okay.
So we had the male one and the female one, which was exciting because the Tipton brothers, they have understanding of the whole Star Trek universe. They're really pulling out a lot of characters that we've seen throughout all the series.
Yeah, bringing in characters that we know. I mean, because I always love that in these stories. And I mean, and also being able to make it fit into the story. And this is such an overreaching story that they can do that. It just has everything in it. If they had brought in, Susie Plax and Q, I guess this was before she had been on Voyager yet, and the son of Q.
Yep.
I mean, that would have been interesting too. And what about the other guy, Q, the one that wanted to die? That would have been neat to see him too. Mm-hmm.
So this round goes to?
Okay, so it was issue 5 when Q said that Kirk won, and then they declare the next task to be capturing a Borg Queen, not the Borg Queen, but a Borg Queen.
Which was curious in
Yes.
itself.
And they didn't bring up Sisko's past with the Borg. I mean, the fact that he lost his wife in the battle at Wolf 359, they kind of left that out.
I'm sure that was a time restraint.
Yeah. We love how they throw things in, but then we realize they can't really throw everything in because there's only so many pages in the comic.
And this series could have gone on much longer, I think.
It could have. I don't know if the story wouldn't have been any better, though, if it went on longer.
But just that point that you made about a little bit more background and the feelings of Sisko dealing with Borg.
Yeah, they could have had more character moments. I mean, it seems like they really tried to get more action into it, and they threw in a few character moments just to have them, but there wasn't really that much, and we didn't really, because there's so many characters, they couldn't really have like all the characters to actually be part of the story, but I think they did a good job in making as many as they could contribute to it. So also in issue 5, they brought in Wesley Crusher.
Which I was glad to see, because now you're dealing with another being.
Yes, he became a traveler, so we know he can manipulate space and time or travel through space and time. So he was there, and he could kind of be on the level of the godlike beings, because he was trying to help Picard, and he wasn't saying something like he was trying to help them get out of this situation. And then the traveler from Where No One Has Gone Before. I mean, Wesley and the traveler were both there.
Therefore, this round goes to
I believe that goes into the next issue, doesn't it?
That's right. They announce it next issue. So issue number 6, our final issue.
Okay, in issue 6, now see what happens is Amanda gives Q weapons to everybody. I think she gave them to everybody, right? Everybody on all the teams. So
that was like an unfair advantage.
Well, all the teams had them, right? So they were competing on the same level. But yeah, it was unfair.
But Q did not want them to have anything extra powerful.
Because now they can rise up against their gods, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now these mortals have this power to kill the immortals, or to at least wound them.
Yes. Which he felt that was unfair.
Yes, which Q felt, well, of course, yeah, Q didn't like that. And they mentioned that like it's really just Q, the John Delancey Q that is doing this. The rest of the continuum is against this. But that's why Amanda and the male Q, blonde Corbin Burnson Q, are there.
But I love the characterization of Trelane. They had this guy down pat.
He's still a child, and so he still acts like a child. Yes, and the way he interacts with Q, I mean, Q is sort of like a child in this. The two of them are more like buddies in this, whereas Airborne and the Metron, they're both in agreement that they don't really want to do this either.
Correct.
And and how the other people, the humans, were noticing, like, well, Airborne and the Metron, they're kind of like dissenters. They, and they were saying we could use this to our advantage because they don't want to do this either. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way, and in the previous story, the way Trelane had brought in the Planet Killer just because he didn't like the task, it was too boring. I mean, yeah, they actually want to see this. They wanted to see all these players play games for them.
And issue 6 reveals that the last round went to, it was Captain Picard's team. So now we have Captain Picard's team has 2 victories. Captain Kirk has 1 victory. Captain Janeway has 1 victory.
And they did mention in one of these issues where they said that they wanted to make it the first team that wins 3, which it never got that far. But I was thinking that's a little excessive. Like whoever said that, they wanted this to go on a while.
Now, didn't I mention this when we were going over the drafts, that Captain Sisko's team seems to be the unbalanced team, that he has either too many weaker players or some non-key players in there?
Name his team again.
Okay, Captain Sisko's team is Chakotay, Data. Data's the power player there. Sulu, Bashir, Troy, and Kim.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably the weakest team. I mean, and I hate to say that because I love all those characters.
We love those characters, but if you want a balanced team, you really need, just think of any sport. You need offense, defense, you need power players, you need strategists. This one doesn't have that balance. This is the most off-balance team. It's also the youngest team. You don't want Harry Kim and Sulu on the same team.
Oh my God, you don't want 2 Asians.
No.
I'm sorry, I just had to, like, what?
They're just too young in their careers.
And also, I think they're supposed to say that the time period that Sisko was there in this story was what, second season?
Second season.
It was still when he was still battling with the loss of his wife and everything. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, he was young too at this time.
Dr. Bashir, yeah, you do need a medical person there. Look at how inexperienced he is. I mean, you have a non-season team here. So I called that right from the beginning. The power player is Data. He's the one who came through on so many ways. What I did like about this issue a lot is when you had armies of TOS adversaries. Like you had the army of Mugatos charging.
Yes. The big battle scene, because this was the climax issue, so they had to have this big battle scene at the end. They had the people with the Q weapons, and then the armies of all these other.
It was like the Battle of 5 Armies, yes. TOS style.
So it was neat to see all of that, and it was all great artwork when you're looking at the pictures, and seeing who you could recognize. Oh, they had the salt vampire too.
Yes, and they had multiple of them. So that was back when they were a flourishing species.
So the way this ended, they did. make a peace treaty with all the supreme beings, and some of the people's memories were erased. Yeah,
you knew that was going to happen.
Oh, for Kirk. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see like erasing the memories with the prophets, but in this part, erasing the memories were so that Kirk wouldn't know about things that would happen in the future. Yes, they had to do that. And here's the interesting part, though. Wesley Crusher and Amanda Rogers were made human.
That was weird.
That was weird. Now, for Wesley, I think they're trying to explain why he was in the movie Nemesis, right?
Probably.
So for him, I guess we could understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was supposed to be pre-Nemesis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the story.
It was a fun series to follow.
It was, yeah.
And I like the fact that we're holding back. We'll talk to each other little bits here and there about things that we liked about the series, but this is the time where we'll actually talk about the whole series together. And so,
yeah, I like that it was a crossover, and that it had all of these different characters that we're familiar with. I mean, this is just a great story for the fans. I mean, if you know all of Star Trek, all the shows and all the characters, it's just fun to read about them.
Absolutely, I had a great time enjoying this series with you, Cutie Pie.
Me too, Bidden.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.